Hello and good morning. Welcome to my podcast coming from my garden. It is a very beautiful day today. The sun is shining and it's just really, really lovely. The sky is beautiful and blue and white fluffy clouds, and I'm walking barefoot on the grass. I just had to put it on pause because of an aeroplane. But it just feels so lovely to walk on the grass barefoot, and the sun is shining, and the sun feels so nice and warm on my body. It just feels really lovely. I wish I could send that sunshine and warmth to you while you listen to this podcast. So, in today's episode, I will be reading some paragraphs from Anne Frank's Diary of a Young Girl, and also some paragraphs from the book The Story of My Life by Helen Keller. So before I do that, I'm just going to read some extracts from my own diary. So I ordered a whole bunch of notebooks from Ryman and they arrived last week. So I've started to keep a diary just randomly. Sometimes I write in it and just writing down my thoughts and random things, and it just feels really, really cathartic. Just feels really nice to do that. So I'm just going to read some random bits and pieces from my diary. So this one is from Sunday the 29th of March 2020. I got all the notebooks I ordered. Right now, notebooks and pens are my salvation. I ordered a lot of books, 6 in total. That's my prep. This is the first of the notebooks I am using. It is colored blue. I am going to stick with using one notebook for both research and my thoughts. Otherwise can get overwhelming, switching between notebooks all the time. On the front side, I am going to have it as my research notes. I feel so overwhelmed by the volume of research I need to get through, and I can't keep it all in my head. So I need to record it down on pen and paper. I will also use this notebook to record my thoughts and downloads and my quotes. I will use the back part of the book for my own thoughts, and the front side will be notes and research. Today, I'm not fighting against the resistance of the lockdown. I have my garden to walk in, and for now, that's enough for me. I feel very tired today, so I might give walk a miss. Besides, I prefer to go in the morning. Today I am going to rest, declutter, research, write, and eat lunch. It all makes sense now why I've always been interested in the subjects I felt so drawn to. It has now all fallen into place. Psychology, philosophy, economics, science, spirituality. It's all connected. I needed to have experience and knowledge of all these subjects to gain an overall perspective of the agenda. It's all connected. I'm not crazy. They really do exist, and they're not operating in the shadows anymore. They are operating in plain sight. They have shown their whole hand. There's not enough of us in the awakened resistance, but I will keep trying. 421. During lockdown, I want to focus on decluttering my bedroom. I need to organize my chaos in order to be able to do the things I need to do. I can't live in a cluttered space anymore. Since we are in lockdown, there's nowhere to go, so it's the perfect opportunity to finally declutter. Entry 30th of March 2020. Study thy enemy to know thy enemy. Even deliberate disinformation agents will tell you the truth, sprinkled with lies. Trust your intuition to decipher the truth from the coerced lies. Trust no one, but listen to all. So I read that today and I was like, what do I mean by coerced lies? I mean, I wrote it and I didn't even really understand it. And then I looked up and I was like, am I using the word coerce correctly? And then so I literally looked it up, like the meaning of the word. And coerce, I mean, I know what it means, but I was like, I just wanted to look it up again anyways to get the proper definition. And coerce means Persuade an unwilling person to do something by using force or threats. He was coerced into giving evidence. Obtain something from someone by using force or threats. So, I'm just going to read that again. Study thy enemy to know thy enemy. Even deliberate disinformation sorry, I keep messing up with that word. Study the enemy to know thy enemy. Even deliberate disinformation agents will tell you the truth, sprinkled with lies. Trust your intuition to decipher the truth from the coerced lies. Trust no one, but listen to all. Trust no one is a nod to Mulder from X-Files. I was completely obsessed with X-Files. Okay, now that I've read some random parts from my diary, let's look at The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. But before I read a paragraph from her actual book, I just want to read this really beautiful summary about the book, and it's just really, really lovely. I just really liked it, so I wrote it down in my notebook. Okay. Among the most enduring documents of the 20th century, it remains a beloved and deeply admired testament to the indestructible nature of the human spirit. Young women for a time survived the worst horror of the modern world had seen, and who remained triumphantly and heartbreakingly human throughout her ordeal. For readers who have yet not encountered her, this is the edition to cherish. The Diary of Anne Frank. And this is her first sentence. I hope I will be able to confide everything in you. Sorry, let's say that again. I hope I will be able to confide everything to you, as I have never been able to confide in anyone, and I hope you will be a great source of comfort and support. I really love that, so I'm going to read that again. The Diary of Anne Frank. I hope I will be able to confide everything to you, as I have never been able to confide in anyone, and I hope you will be a great source of comfort and support. Sorry about my podcast is a bit messy and all over the place. Thank you for bearing with me. I just want to read a little bit more information about the background behind Anne Frank's diary. So this is a foreword, and this edition is from The Diary of a Young Girl, the definitive edition, Anne Frank, edited by Otto H. Frank and Miriam Pressler, translated by Susan Massotti. Anne Frank kept a diary from June 12, 1942 to August 1, 1944. Initially, she wrote it strictly for herself. Then one day, in 1944, Gerrit Bolkestein, a member of the Dutch government in exile, announced in a radio broadcast from London that after the war he hoped to collect eyewitness accounts of the suffering of the Dutch people under the German occupation, which could be made available to the public. As an example, he specifically mentioned letters and diaries. Impressed by this speech, Anne Frank decided that when the war was over, she would publish a book based on her diary. She began rewriting and editing her diary, improving on the text, omitting passages she didn't think were interesting enough, and adding others for memory. At the same time, she kept up her original diary. In the scholarly work, The Diary of Anne Frank, the critical edition, 1989, Anne's first unedited diary is referred to as version A to distinguish it from her second edition, edited diary, which is known as version B. On August 4th, 1944, let's back up. The last entry in Anne's diary is dated August 1st, 1944. On August 4th, 1944, the 8 people hiding in the secret annex were arrested. Miep Geus and Bep Kujil, the two secretaries working in the building, found Anne's diaries strewn all over the floor. Miep Gies tucked them away in a desk drawer for safekeeping. After the war, when it became clear that Anne was dead, she gave the diaries unread to Anne's father, Otto Frank. After long deliberation, Otto Frank decided to fulfill his daughter's wish and publish her diary. He selected material from versions A and B, editing them into a shorter version later referred to as version C. Readers all over the world know this as the Diary of a Fauna Girl. In making his choice, Otto Frank had to bear several points in mind. And then it just talks about how he had to keep it short and stuff like that, and omitted certain things that he didn't think were appropriate for the public to know, like really personal stuff that Anne Frank wrote about. Okay, so I'm just going to read a couple of paragraphs now from the beginning of how her diary starts. Okay. I hope I will be able to confide everything to you, as I have never been able to confide in anyone, and I hope you will be a great source of comfort and support. June 12th, 1942. I hope I will be able to confide everything to you, as I have never been able to confide in anyone, and I hope you will be a great source of comfort and support. Comment added by Anne on September 28, 1942. So far, you truly have been a great source of comfort to me, and so has Kitty, whom I now write to regularly. This way of keeping a diary is much nicer, and now I can hardly wait for those moments when I'm able to write in you. Oh, I'm so glad I brought you along. Sunday, June 14th, 1942. I'll begin from the moment I got you, the moment I saw you lying on the table among my other birthday presents. I went along when you were bought, but that doesn't count. On Friday, June 12th, I was awake at 6 o'clock, which isn't surprising since it was my birthday, but I'm not allowed to get up at that hour, so I had to control my curiosity until 7:15. When I couldn't wait any longer, I went to the dining room where Morty, the cat, welcomed me by rubbing against my legs. A little after 7, I went to Daddy and Mama, and then to the living room to open my presents, and you were the first thing I saw, maybe one of my nicest presents, then a bouquet of roses, some peonies, and a potted plant. From Daddy and Mama, I got a blue blouse, a game, a bottle of grape juice, which to my mind tastes a bit like wine. After all, wine is made from grapes. A puzzle, a jar of cold cream, 2.50 guilders, and a gift certificate for 2 books. I got another book as well, Camera Obscura, but Margot already has it, so I exchanged mine for something else. A platter of homemade cookies, which I made myself, of course, since I've become quite an expert at baking cookies. Lots of candy, and a strawberry tart from Mother, and a letter from Grammy, right on time, but of course, that was just a coincidence. And then she talks about how she went to school and during recess she passed out cookies to her teachers and class, and then it was time to get back to work. And she didn't arrive home until 5 since she went to the gym with the rest of the class. And she talks about how she wasn't allowed to take part because her shoulders and hips tend to get dislocated. And she says, as it was my birthday, I got to decide which game my classmates would play, and I chose volleyball. Afterward, they all danced around me in a circle and sang happy birthday. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it there for the time being, and maybe in future podcasts I'll read another entry. So thank you so much for listening, and I will wrap up this particular part because it's coming up to 15 minutes. And in the next part, I will read a couple of paragraphs from Helen Keller's book. Hello, and welcome to part 2 of episode 4 of my podcast. I thought I would mix it up a bit actually, so I'm not going to be reading from Helen Keller's book right now. Thought I would do something different. I mentioned this actually in the previous episode, how I want to do a sort of guided meditation story freestyle. So I'm just going to be making it up as I go along. So it's going to be a little bit, it won't be smooth, it won't be clean, it'll be quite, jerky and a bit messy, but let's have some fun with it and let's see where it goes. So the way I do my guided meditation story scripts is I just pick a whole bunch of random oracle cards, and then I look at the image, and then I get ideas of where to take the story. So the concept of a guided meditation is that you are the leading protagonist of the story. You are the character in the story. And, you just close your eyes and you imagine it all with your mind's eyes. So it's like being in a film where you are the actual leading character and you're like watching the film with your eyes closed. So this is the first time I'm doing this on a whim. I did do it once before just for myself, and it was really fun. It was a bit messy and it wasn't really smooth, but it was still, really enjoyable for me. So I don't know if it'll be enjoyable for you listening. So this is a really long introduction. So I will put in the description if you just want to jump straight to the story, which will be at 2 minutes. Okay, so before we get started, I would like to invite you to sit in a quiet place. You can sit down or you can lie down and just close your eyes and take 3 deep, long breaths and slowly exhale. So I'll do that with you just to get you all relaxed. There's something about breathing in deeply that can really relax your parasympathetic nervous system, something like that. There's a really beautiful butterfly in my garden right now. It's orange with black dots. I feel really blessed that I'm able to walk in my garden during this lockdown period. Okay, so let's breathe in for a count of 4 and then breathe out for a count of 7. I'm going to move the microphone away from my mouth so you don't actually hear me breathing. Okay, so breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. One last time. Breathe in and breathe out. So when you're breathing in, you can also hold it for a few seconds as well, so you can properly oxygenate your bloodstream, your hemoglobins. Okay, that's a really long introduction. Okay, let's get started. You find yourself standing in a room. In front of you is a large orb. It is colored orange, and there is bright yellow flames all around the orb. You walk towards it and you can feel the warmth coming from this gigantic orb. As you walk towards this gigantic orange blazing orb of light, a woman appears. She has bright, beautiful orange hair, and she's holding a little crystal. Inside the globe crystal, so it's like a crystal globe, you can see there's images of orange things, but you can't quite make out what it is. She introduces herself as the seeker of crystals, and she asks you where you would like to go. You tell her that you're not sure where you want to go, and she then suggests that you go to the library, and you're confused and you're wondering what's so special about the library. And she tells you that in the library, you can go to any bookshelf and pick any book, and whichever location the book describes, you can then venture towards it. So you nod your head and you say, okay, I will go to the library. So she opens a doorway separate from the orb, and the doorway is bright white light. She uses her hand to motion the doorway, and she creates it into the air, and she invites you to walk towards it. You walk towards the doorway and go through. On the other side, you find yourself in a beautiful, grand library with staircases of marble. There is a hint of green hue in the library, and the library has potted plants of yellow flowers and yellow butterflies flying around. In front of you is a woman dressed in a green dress. She's dressed in sort of olden clothes. She turns to you and asks you what type of book you are looking for. You tell her that you're not sure, that you want to go somewhere but you don't know where. So she gestures to you to go to a bookshelf where there are lots of books about magical lands that you may want to visit. You thank the librarian and walk towards the bookshelf. You trace your hand against the spines of the books. The books are all beautifully decorated with golden decorations. And you pick a book randomly and you open it up. And inside you see a picture of a woman dressed in grand old clothes. The dress is light green and orange, and the woman is holding a flower. She seems to be of royalty. Underneath the picture, it's written that she's from the land of appreciation. You're confused and you're wondering what this land is about. So you take the book and you decide that you want to go to the land of appreciation. You go back towards the doorway that was made for you, and then you go back to the room where the large orange orb is there waiting for you. As you walk towards the bright white doorway, you're back in the room, and you tell the seeker of the crystals that you would like to go to the land of appreciation. You show her the open book and the page. The seeker of the crystal nods her head and says it is a very good land and it's a good decision. She then invites you to place your hands on the orange glowing orb. She tells you not to worry, that the heat is just warm and it will not harm you. You walk towards the glowing orange orb and place your hands on it. It feels nice and warm and comforting. Suddenly, you are whooshed away into another land. You find yourself in a large meadow. The sun is shining, the sky is blue, and the field is covered with lots of different colored flowers. You're all alone and you don't see anybody, so you begin to walk. You don't know where you're going, but you trust your intuition and you decide to pick a direction and start walking. You're walking through the meadow and it feels nice and peaceful. You can hear the sounds of the birds and see white butterflies flying all around you. Suddenly, in the distance, you see something. It's a figure of somebody, but you can't quite work out who they are. You start to walk towards them, and they slowly come into vision. They are dressed in olden clothes, and they are beautiful, quite extraordinarily so. They come and walk towards you and smile and welcome you to the land of appreciation. They tell you that they will be your companion in this land and be your guide. They will be your connection to this land. As you walk with your new companion, they tell you about all the things of the land of appreciation and how wonderful and peaceful it is to live here. As you walk with them through the meadow, you hear the sound of the sea, and you ask your companion if you can walk towards it as you love to be by the sea. They nod, and you begin your journey towards the beach. The sun feels nice and warm on your back. As you walk closer to the beach, you see that they are beautiful fish jumping out of the ocean with beautiful colored gills and fishtails. And you also see mermaids jumping out of the water. Some are sitting on rocks, and others are just lying on the beach, soaking in the sun. You also see some mermaids that don't have a fishtail, but they have legs, and they're standing on large dolphins, and they're gliding across the sea. It's a wonderful sight to behold, and you're completely mesmerized. Your companion asks you if you would like to visit the dragons. You nod your head and say yes, because that is quite exciting. So, your companion gets out a flute and makes a tune, and suddenly, above in the sky, you see something flying, and as it gets closer, you realize it's a big golden dragon with its big wings flying through the sky. Eventually, it reaches the beach and lands. It is beautiful, glittering gold scales, and your companion invites you to touch the dragon's skin so that you can feel what it feels like. It feels smooth and warm. Your companion then asks you if you would like to ride the dragon with them to go to the mermaid and dolphin afternoon tea party. You nod your head, and your companion helps you to sit on the dragon's back, and it feels comfortable. Your companion sits behind you, and you hold on to the dragon, and it gets up into the sky and wishes you away, and it is exhilarating to be flying through the sky. After some time of flying, it settles down into a small island in the middle of the ocean, and there on the island are mermaids and dolphins, all having a wonderful tea party, and they invite you and serve you tea and cakes and sandwiches, and you are there happily having a wonderful time. The end. Hello, and welcome back to part 3 of my podcast. I hope you enjoyed that little freestyle guided meditation story. I know it was a little bit messy and a little bit, it wasn't smooth or anything like that. And, some people be like, oh, that was really like, I don't know, mushy or something. But that's my style. I love fantasy stuff like that. So, but I will put a note in the description if anyone doesn't want to listen to a guided meditation story in the middle of a podcast. That's totally fine. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed that. That was really fun for me. I could totally imagine all of that happening in my mind, and I felt like I was there, which is quite really fun. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is read some positive affirmation cards. And these cards are again from my birthday holiday, so I just want to read them and see what kind of messages I can get. So the first 2 cards are actually Law of Attraction, Abraham Hicks teaching. So the first card is, what if everything was always working out for me? When you play the what if game, look for things that make you feel better. There is never a situation in which there is not a way out, but out of habit, most people continue to choose the lack perspective until they eventually find themselves where it seems that there are no more choices. But as you hold to your intention to look for evidence of well-being and thriving and success and happiness, you will tune yourself to the vibrations of those things, and so those kinds of good feeling experiences will dominate your life. So the idea is to look for feelings to make you feel better. Try to move towards feelings that make you feel good. And do things that make you feel good, whatever it is. For me, it's creative stuff. Like I love creating this podcast. I love creating guided meditation stories. I love creating quote pictures. Things like that. Okay, next card. I can pivot under any and all conditions. You have the ability to pivot under any and all conditions, but most of you are habitual in nature, and your patterns are so well entrenched that at times the fastest path to the joy you seek is for you to take your pivot as you sleep. By reaching for good feeling thoughts before you go to sleep, and then experiencing the benefit of the quiet mind that occurs while you sleep, and then upon awakening, immediately turning to good feeling thoughts, you can accomplish the ultimate pivoting experience. So this idea is that sometimes when we're spiraling into darkness, when we're having negative feelings and thoughts, and that's okay, because I read that, sometimes when we're angry or frustrated, it's our subconscious wanting to be heard. And it's okay to feel those feelings. We don't have to repress them. We can express them in any way that we want. And just, not to numb them, but to validate them and to say, I hear you, I see you. And sometimes, just going to sleep can also help to, stop the momentum of spiraling into darkness. And what this card is saying, that to pivot under any condition, just before you go to sleep, under normal circumstances, when you're not like angry or anything like that, when you're just neutral, try to think of some good feeling thoughts just before you fall asleep, and then you will be in that state while you are sleeping, and then you can wake up all feeling all refreshed. Just checking that I'm still recording. Yep. Okay, so the next set of cards I'm going to be reading, these are just positive affirmation cards by Louise Hay. So let's see what cards I have. Okay, so the first card is, I know and affirm that my body is a friendly place to live. Sorry, I'm just adjusting my microphone. Okay, I'm back. I have respect for my body and treat it well. I affirm positive things about my body and tell it I love it often. Actually, that just reminds me, when you're speaking positive affirmations for yourself, you use the word I am. But when you're when you're saying positive affirmations for an audience, you then use you are, because your subconscious doesn't hear I am from an external voice. So I'm going to have to change the wording of this positive affirmation cards because you are listening to this. So because I'm saying these positive affirmations for you, I'm the external voice. So then I need to use you are. So I'm just going to read that again. You know and affirm that your body is a friendly place to live. You have respect for your body and you treat it well. You affirm positive things about your body and tell it you love it often. Okay. Next card. You release all fears and doubts. You accept yourself and create peace in your mind and heart. You now choose to free yourself from all destructive fears and doubts. You are loved and you are safe. Next card. You are not restricted by limiting beliefs. You are gentle. You are kind and comforting to your inner child as you uncover and release the old negative messages from family and society. That's a really good card, really poignant. So I'm going to say that again. Oh, it's gotten really windy all of a sudden. Okay. You are not restricted by limiting beliefs. You are gentle. You are kind. You are comforting to your inner child as you uncover and release the old negative messages from family and society. Okay, next card. You rejoice in your unlimitedness. You are aware that you are pure consciousness. You are one with all life. That's a really good card. You are aware that you are pure consciousness. So you are spirit, a soul, living a human experience in a body. So I saw somewhere on Instagram a post saying that you are a soul with a body instead of a body with a soul, which is quite interesting. Different perspective. I like that. So it just reminded me of like grounding work. So if you don't have access to a garden and you can't walk barefoot on grass, there are other ways that you can ground yourself. I saw on Instagram, I think it was on Oracle of the Angels Instagram channel, and she talks about how Epsom bath salts, you can put them in a bathtub and lie in it, and someone said that, oh, she doesn't have a bath, but she has a shower. So another suggestion is to just put it on your the shower bath floor, and just sprinkle it down and then step on it as you take a shower. And that's also a way of grounding yourself. Epsom bath salts. Okay, let's get to the positive affirmation cards. Next one. You accept all of yourself. The work you do on yourself is not a goal, it is a process, a lifetime process. You choose to enjoy the process. So this idea of, working on ourselves, raising our vibration, accumulating knowledge, raising our frequency, working on our growth, in whatever aspect it is. There isn't a sort of goal. It's just an ongoing process. Like Esther Hicks says, you never get it done. And you're not supposed to, I think. And I read somewhere on YouTube, someone commented that the only thing we take with us is our knowledge. And I was thinking, that's so true. And I always feel like, oh, there's so much knowledge I want to accumulate into my brain. But I'm just taking it one day at a time because, I can't consume everything in one go. That would be too overwhelming. It's like what Esther Hicks says, you don't want to eat all the food of a lifetime in one sitting. So I guess I kind of use that way of the knowledge out there as well that I want to acquire. Okay, this is the cards are finished. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed those positive affirmation cards. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read some oracle cards and some angel cards, and just to see if there are any messages I can get. So these cards I pulled for my birthday eve when I went to Jersey. So I'm still going through the cards. I think I'm nearly finished with them. So then I'll be able to, from tomorrow onwards, pull new cards. So these cards were, so open on your birthday eve, which was Thursday, the 27th of February. So I just want to go back to the cards and see what kind of messages I can decipher. Okay, so the first card is releasing. It's a picture of a mermaid. I'm seeing a lot of mermaid in this podcast episode, the guided story. It's really interesting that it's just popping up, synchronicity. Okay, so it's a picture of a mermaid, and she's in this waterfall of blue, cascading white light water, and it says releasing, purification, spiritual cleansing, letting go. So some people have, in the spiritual community, have this perspective that what we're going through right now, the whole world on a global event, is a massive purge of 3D thinking, of things that were holding us back. And so it's like the Great Awakening, the big event. So we're at the moment going through a purification, a spiritual cleansing, letting go of limited beliefs and things that we held on to, and so that we can start anew, start afresh. Next card. So this card is a picture of an ice queen, beautiful ice queen. She's dressed in ice blue dress. She has wings behind her, and she's holding an orb of white light, which is really interesting because that's what I've been imagining myself, just randomly. I imagine I'm holding an orb of golden light, and then I hold it and it gets charged, and then I send it out into the collective consciousness, into the grid, to help hold the frequency of the ascension, positive paradise timeline, which is what Magenta Pixie talks about, how the light workers and the star seeds are holding up this timeline during this period of purging and darkness that we're going through. If you're interested in spiritual perspective of all this is happening, I'm like open to everything. I'm just researching everything, like different spiritual community perspective, different people in the spiritual community, the conspiracy theorists, the truth seekers. I'm researching everything and then using my own intuition to decipher, what is true for me and what makes sense, and then I leave things that don't really resonate with me. So, people in the spiritual community always talk about trust your intuition, do your own research, follow, that inner voice that will guide you and that will help you to decipher, what is truth and what, is misinformation. So it's all up to you really, and, connect with source, connect with God, and ask to be guided to gain knowledge of, of the truth. So that's what I've been doing. Oh, coming up to 15 minutes. Let's start a new part. Hello, and welcome to another part of this episode. Can I just say I'm really enjoying this? I'm just feeling really good right now. I'm just walking in my garden and the sun is shining and I can feel the grass beneath my feet and it just feels really lovely. It just feels really relaxing. And I just love reading oracle cards and angel cards and trying to decipher the codes and the messages that I get. And, it's just really, really fun, and connecting with the collective consciousness and things like that. And talking to you guys, I just really, really love it. It just feels really nice. So thank you so much for listening. I really, really appreciate you. And I'm sending you lots of love and light. Okay, let's get back to the card. So Ice Queen. Introspection, self-analysis, and fortitude. So now that we are in lockdown, it's given us all an opportunity to slow down and to have some self-analysis, to work on our shadow self, let go of things that were holding us back, and have a lot of introspection and a way to just slow down and figure out, who we are, what we want from our life, and to create that. You have the power to create the reality that you want to manifest. So, okay, next card is, wow, these pictures of orbs keep coming up. So this is a picture of a beautiful woman dressed in a white dress, and she has white wings, and she has one arm stretched out, and from her hand coming out white stars of light, and it says the guardians, shielding, defense, warning. So this message that I'm getting is what a lot of people are saying in the spiritual community, that we do have guardians that are taking care of planet Earth, Gaia, and looking out for us, shielding, defense, warning. And, there's lots of things happening behind the scenes that we might not be aware of. And Magenta Pixie talks about that quite a lot. I can recommend watching her timeline video. It's about 2.5 hours. It's really interesting what she's saying. It's a different perspective. And she even says herself, she was like, I encourage you to do your own research and, take what resonates with you and leave what doesn't resonate with you. And, look at all perspectives and possibilities. Nothing is black and white. So I like when she says that, if somebody says, this is definitely what is happening, it's okay to question that and look at different perspectives and just look at all different ideas. So, okay. So the next card is, it's a really beautiful card from Josephine. I think her name is Josephine Wall, her artwork. Okay, letting go. Learn to let go. So this is quite a big message to the collective, to humans as a whole, to let go. Let go of things that held you back in the past, negative thoughts about yourself, or about, letting go of the fear of what might happen, what may not happen. So all we have is the now. So let go of all things that no longer serve you. So these can be previous habits that we did, or thought patterns, or ideas that we had, or people that we don't connect with anymore. I know for me, myself, I've moved away from people that I don't feel connected to, or don't feel on the same vibration or match to them. And I'm just like distancing myself from that sort of energy, and just mostly spending a lot of time on my own and just doing a lot of introspection work and going within and studying a lot. I'm just studying a lot. And I think it's okay to move away from people that you just don't feel vibrationally connected with anymore. So, yeah, learn to let go. Okay, the next card is Opportunity Knocks, Go for it. So during this whole global change, there's going to be lots of opportunities that will arise. You know, when they say that expression, when a door closes, another one opens, but we stare so long at the door that is closed that we don't realize that a new door has opened, a better door that will lead you to a path of a better life. So there's going to be lots of opportunities that are going to be knocking, and and this card is saying go for it. Don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid of shifting to a new paradigm, whether that involves changing your social circle of friends, or changing the type of hobbies that you do, or your motivation of the type of subjects that you're studying, whatever feels right for you. Okay, next card. It's very poignant. Cheer up, live in the moment. So that's a really strong message that our guides are telling us to not to fall into despair or hopelessness or fear. Those are all low vibrating energies. So we want to raise our frequency. We want to raise our vibration. So we want to feel good, because dwelling in fear and all those negative energies, it just drains your system. And it's okay to feel those feelings, absolutely. Don't, feel that you have to run away from them or numb them. Acknowledge them, absolutely acknowledge them. And it's okay to feel it. And the message is live in the moment, because the moment is all we have. So this stems back from the previous episode where Dale Carnegie talks about live in day-tight compartments. Sorry, I'm just touching the microphone. So yeah, live in the moment. Okay, the next card, crystal clear intention. This is a picture of a woman, and she's holding a bow and arrow. So you need to have a crystal clear intention of what you want your life to look like. So today, I heard in the spiritual community, everyone's talking about the 444 portal that's opening today, because today is the 4th of April. So you can use this special day to put your intention into the universe of what you want your life to look like, what you want from life, or what you want to manifest. Oh, there's a beautiful little bird just sitting not so far away, and it's not flying away. Hello, little bird. So cute. Amazing. I'm so surprised that it's not flying away, but it's perfectly happy for me to just stand. I mean, I'm like 1 meter away from it. Social distancing. Oh, it's just looking around. It's flown up now on the wall. Oh, it's so pretty. I love little birds. So cute. Can you hear it? Oh, it's singing. Can you hear it? Oh, it's so cute. That is the bird that's singing. Look how loud it is. It's amazing. It's something really calming about birds singing. I don't know why. So I hope you can hear it, like in the background when I record these podcasts. Natural birds singing. It's wonderful. Okay, so crystal clear intention. Yeah, so there's you can find guided meditations if you want to do a guided meditation. I know there's something big happening in the spiritual community, how there's going to be like a mass meditation where everyone's going to be doing it today to, for the collective consciousness. So if you want to, you can search for it. I think it's called 444 Mass Meditation. Magenta Pixie has made one, so I'm going to do that later on today. And I think Aaron Doherty is doing one as well for tomorrow. There's something astrological big event happening tomorrow on the 5th of April, so I'll be doing that as well. Okay. So the next card is relationship harmony. So during this time of being on lockdown, we can work on having harmony with our relationships. So this isn't just human relationships, but relationship with your inner being, with yourself, relationship with source, with creator, with God, with, whoever that you feel connected with, whatever your belief is. And also literally relationship harmony with, your family and your friends and the people that you live with. And, it's okay if there'll be times when, you'll be like, oh, you get angry or whatever. But, that's fine because, it can get tough being in confined situations. So, be kind to yourself and give yourself self-compassion and don't be hard on yourself. And, know that you are doing the best that you can and everything that you do is okay. And, don't worry about it. You're doing the best that you can really in the present circumstance. And just want to say that, if, you did lose your temper or anything like that, it's okay. And today is a brand new day. Put a line underneath it and move forward and make today a better and brighter, harmonious day. Okay, next card. Ooh, this is really poignant. I know I say that to a lot of cards. This one is high vibrational living. So this is inviting all of us to live in a high vibrational state. So to be more in tune with high vibrational energies and feelings like joy and bliss and creativity and peace and harmony and love. So those are all high vibrational energies that lift our spirit up, that boost our immune system, that make us feel good and make us feel stronger. And when we're feeling like that, then we can share that with other people. There's a really good video that I can recommend. It's called The Divine Matrix. It's about 3 hours long, and it's by Greg. I'm going to mess up his surname. Greg Bragdon or something. I'm going to butcher the explanation of the stuff that he talks about, so I highly recommend you check him out to watch the original. But he talks about how scientists have shown that we emit a frequency from our heart center, and that goes for miles and miles and miles. So we all are actually connected, telepathically connected through the collective consciousness. So if you're feeling good and you're feeling bliss, that energy actually goes out into the world and it affects the collective consciousness. You are adding positivity and light to the collective consciousness. So by you working on yourself and working on things that make you feel good, you're actually helping humanity because it raises the vibration of the collective consciousness. So go forth and do things that give you joy, that make you happy, create, do whatever it is that puts you in a state of, good feeling thoughts. Self-compassion, that's the theme for today. Do some self-care and give yourself some self-love. Okay, next card. Create abundance. Archangel Michael. So this card is about creating abundance, that could be in the form of money, which is a form of energy. So I know a lot of people have lost jobs, so I wish them better opportunity jobs in the future, and that they are safe, and that they are well cared for and taken care of, and that they have an abundance of money for them to feel safe and for them to do the things that they want to do. Okay, so it's coming up to 15 minutes, so I'm just going to start another part because I still have quite a few cards to go through. Okay, thank you for listening so far. Hello, and welcome back to some more Oracle and Angel card readings. The next card is Soul Power by Archangel Uriel. So, the message that I'm getting about this is that you have the power within your soul to manifest the life that you want to live. Soul power. You are an incredibly powerful human being. And listen to your intuition, because that will guide you to know what is the right thing for you and guide you to the right, highest positive path, highest positive life path for you. It's all about you. So don't worry so much about what's happening in the world. Just focus on yourself and focus on what you want and the life that you want to create. The world will take care of itself. You just focus on yourself for now. Okay, next card. You are ascending. Archangel Azrael. So this is a message for not only starseeds and light workers that already are on the ascension pathway, are awakened and are ascending. But this is also for the newly awakened and the people that are going to be awakened soon. And, we are all on a collective consciousness ascending to a higher level of positive vibration. So this is a message, a confirmation that we are on the right path. We're on the right timeline. We just have to have faith and hope that all things will work out. Okay, next card. Initiation. So we're all being initiated, basically, into a new paradigm, or into new earth, and that things will get better. I know it seems really dark at the moment, but I have faith, I have hope that things will get better. Next card, releasing. So this is a really nice card. It's a picture of an angel, and there's a bright white golden light coming from their chest and coming out, and with images of white birds, and they have white wings, and they're releasing. So release everything that no longer serves you, whether that's limited thought patterns that we were programmed with, people that we no longer resonate with. You can release all of that and, spend time with yourself, connecting with your inner being. Okay, and the last card is Source of Life. So this is a card of someone standing underneath a waterfall of light, and above them it's like large sort of hands and a dove. So I feel like, the source of life is coming from Source, literally Creator God of the universe, and that Source is giving us a new life and guiding us, protecting us, and taking care of us, really. So, yeah. Okay, so that's the end of the angel card reading. So I'm going to now read some paragraphs from the book, Helen Keller's book, The Story of My Life. Okay, so I'm just going to read the blurb that's behind the book. At the back of the book, should I say. The Story of My Life by Helen Keller, an American classic rediscovered by each generation. The story of my life is Helen Keller's account of her triumph over deafness and blindness. Helen Keller's story has become a symbol of hope for people all over the world. This book, published when Keller was only 22, portrays the wild child who is locked in the dark and silent prison of her own body with an extraordinary sense of immediacy. Keller reveals her frustrations and rage and takes the reader on the unforgettable journey of her education and breakthroughs into the world of communication. We see Keller as she finally realizes that her teacher's finger-spelled letters mean water. Suddenly, that living word awakened my soul, gave it light, hope, joy, set it free. Oh my God, I love that. I'm feeling really moved right now. Sorry, I just had to pause it because I literally had tears in my eyes. I was like so moved by that. So I'm just going to read it again. We see Keller as she finally realizes that her teacher's finger-spelled letters mean water. Suddenly, that living word awakened my soul, gave it light, hope, joy, set it free. An unparalleled chronicle of courage. The story of my life remains startlingly fresh and vital, nearly a century after its first publication, a timeless testament to an indomitable will. So I'm just going to read the foreword at the front of the book. Helen Keller was born on June 27th, 1880, in Tuscumbia, Alabama. At 19 months old, an acute illness nearly took her life and left her deaf and blind. At the recommendation of Alexander Graham Bell, her parents contacted the Perkins Institute for the Blind in Boston, and Anne Sullivan was sent to tutor Helen. The story of their early years together and of Helen's remarkable psychological and intellectual growth is told in the story of my life, which first appeared in installments in Ladies' Home Journal in 1902. With Anne Sullivan teacher at her side, Helen Keller graduated from Radcliffe College in 1904, an extraordinary accomplishment for any woman of her time. Helen was dedicated to helping the blind and handicapped, raising funds for the American Foundation for the Blind, and lobbying for commissions for the blind in 30 states. Wow, that's amazing. She did so much. A women's rights activist, a Swedenborgian, a socialist, and a world-famous celebrity, Helen Keller received the Presidential Medal of Freedom and many honorary degrees. On the second page, her dedication, she writes, to Alexander Graham Bell, who has taught the deaf to speak and enabled the listening ear to hear speech from the Atlantic to the Rockies, I dedicate this story of my life. Amazing. I'm just going to read a couple of sentences from chapter 1. It is with a kind of fear that I begin to write the history of my life. I have, as it were, a superstitious hesitation in lifting the veil that clings about my childhood like a golden mist. The task of writing an autobiography is a difficult one. When I try to classify my earliest impressions, I find that fact and fancy look alike across the years that link the past with the present. The woman paints the child's experiences in her own fantasy. A few impressions stand out vividly from the first years of my life, but the shadows of the prison house are on the rest. Besides, many of the joys and sorrows of childhood have lost their poignancy, and many incidents of vital importance in my early education have been forgotten in the excitement of great discoveries. In order, therefore, not to be tedious, I shall try to present in a series of sketches only the episodes that seemed to me to be the most interesting and important. The father on I was born on June 27, 1880 in Tuscany, a little town of northern Alabama. The family on my father's side is descended from Caspar Kelly, a native of Switzerland who settled in Maryland. One of my Swiss ancestors was the first teacher of the deaf. One of my Swiss ancestors was the first teacher of the deaf in Zurich and wrote a book on the subject of their education. Rather, a singular coincidence, though it is true that there is no king who has not had a slave among his ancestors, and no slave who has not had a king among his. So I'm just going to skip ahead. And I lived up to the time of the illness that deprived me of my sight and hearing in a tiny house consisting of a large square room and a small one, in which the servant slept. It is a custom in the South to build a small house near the homestead as an annex to be used on occasion. Such a house my father built after the Civil War, and when he married my mother, they went to live in it. It was completely covered with vines, climbing roses, and honeysuckles. From the garden it looked like an arbor. The little porch was hidden from view by a screen of yellow roses and southern smilax. It was the favorite haunt of hummingbirds and bees. That's so lovely. That's such a lovely description. I can just imagine that in my mind of her house. She writes so beautifully. The Keller homestead, where the family lived, was a few steps from our little rose bower. It was called Ivy Green because the house and the surrounding trees and fences were covered with beautiful English ivy. Its old-fashioned garden was the paradise of my childhood. Oh, I love that. That's really sweet. Even in the days before my teacher came, I used to feel along the square, stiff boxwood hedges, and guided by the sense of smell, would find the first violets and lilies. There too, after a fit of temper, I went to find comfort and to hide my hot face in the cool leaves and grass. What joy it was to lose myself in that garden of flowers, to wander happily from spot to spot, until coming suddenly upon a beautiful vine. I recognized it by its leaves and blossoms, and knew it was the vine which covered the tumble-down summer house at the further end of the garden. Here also were trailing clematis, drooping jasmine, and some rare sweet flowers called butterfly lilies, because their fragile petals resemble butterflies' wings. But the roses, they were loveliest of all. Never have I found in the greenhouses of the north such satisfying roses as the climbing roses of my southern home. They used to hang in long festoons from our porch, filling the whole air with their fragrance, untainted by any earthy smell, and in the early morning, washed in the dew, they felt so soft, so pure, I could not help wondering if they did not resemble the asphodels of God's garden. That's beautiful. I love the way she describes things. The beginning of my life was simple, and much like every other little life. I came, I saw, I conquered, as the first baby in the family always does. There was the usual amount of discussion as to a name for me. The first baby in the family was not to be lightly named. Everyone was emphatic about that. So finally she was named. Her mother gave her wish that she should be named after her mother, whose maiden name was Helen Everett. So she then talks about how when she was a little baby, she showed many signs of eager, self-asserting disposition, and everything that she saw other people do, she insisted on imitating. At 6 months, she could actually say the words, "How dear," "How do you do?" like So she's written, how dear. And one day she attracted everyone's attention by saying tea, 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 quite plainly. And she then says, even after her illness, she remembered one of the words she had learned in these early months. It was the word water, and she continued to make some sound for that word after all other speech was lost. And she says, I ceased making the sound wawa only when I learned to spell the word. And I'm going to end this podcast right there, and I might come back to reading some more paragraphs from this book. And thank you so much for listening, and I wish you a very lovely day. Bye for now.